Hello everybody, this is Julie, and today I'm going to be talking about how to attach the 3/4 sleeve module to your ModularME base pattern. Now the sleeve pattern comes as two options, and if you'd like to have a look, there is a full sleeve which when folded along the fold line creates the shape of the sleeve. So there's the full sleeve and what we're going to call a half a sleeve. Now the difference between these is you would use this pattern if you want your whole sleeve to be the same material. This pattern is particularly great if you would like to have a different material on the front of your sleeve compared to your back. So if you're using all the one material, this is the sleeve for you. So let me step through how we're going to attach this. Here you can see the top, and I've followed all the instructions up to the end of attaching the facing. Now, instead of having a fold back here on the end of the sleeve module, so I've already cut mine out, the sleeve module will attach directly onto this edge. Now, let me explain what you can see here. That's a small V that I have cut into the top of my sleeve. Let me show you how I did that. This is my other sleeve. I got my scissors and I cut a small V. Now, bear in mind your seam allowance or your stitching line will be about where my thumb is. You do not want to put your cut past there. Just a small nick like that, which will then enable you to see the midpoint of the sleeve, which is the fold line. And this needs to line up with the shoulder seam on your top. So I'm using a different material on my back. So here's the front, here's the back, and that little midpoint there needs to line up. See how I've lined that up beautifully with my shoulder seam. Now if you go back, let's look at the pattern again, and you can see this little series of dots across here. They actually sit on the fold line, and each one of these little markers is coded to relate to a particular size. So let's look at size 6. That's this inside heavy dotted line. The marker for this is the inside one with a little heart. That actually will show you where that point sits on the shoulder of the top in line with your seam allowance that runs back down through there. So to put it together, there's just one little interesting technique about putting this sleeve onto the top, which is why we're doing a little video. What I'd suggest you do, pin like this. Start at the middle. You're going to put a pin through there like that. You're going to go back to the bottom edge, and you can see that the pattern is perfectly sized to fit onto your top. You're going to put a pin at the bottom. Then you're going to put a couple of intermediate pins. I like to pin at right angles to where I'm sewing. Line everything up beautifully like that. Now when you come back up to here, you can see if you leave everything lying perfectly flat, this looks like it doesn't fit. It does fit, and it fits beautifully, but you actually have to pivot. So see what I just did then? I'll show you again. You're going to line up that side, then you're going to lift the pattern and pivot, and you can see now that that will stretch right down to the bottom there. We're going to put a pin in the bottom like that. Lines up beautifully at the bottom, and we're going to come back and again line up all your raw edges down here. Put some more pins down that seam to hold everything in place. And what I'm going to do now is take this to the sewing machine and actually show you how to attach it, what to do when you're stitching so you get that lovely pivot point right there. So let's just clear a little bit of space. I'm going to sit down at the machine. This is really, really simple to do, but I thought a little video might make a difference for you. So I'm going to grab my top. I'm going to bring it to the sewing machine. I'm stitching with a 1.5 centimeter seam allowance. I'm going to pop it into the machine. I'm going to do a small back stitch at the beginning, like that. And then I'm just going to stitch across. Take the pins out as you go. I'm just going to go straight down. So I'm stitching the sleeve onto the front of the top at this point in time. And I'm going to keep going until you can feel the shoulder seam underneath, because there's a little bit of extra layers there. And I'm going to slow down very carefully, and I can feel that I'm almost at the shoulder seam. And when I'm on the shoulder seam, I'm going to stop. I'm going to lift the foot. See how the needle is in the material? That enables you to pivot without everything sliding around. And then I'm very carefully just going to realign the layers underneath. So now I can stitch in a straight line down here. So basically I was stitching that way. Now I've changed the angle slightly. I'm going to pop that back down, and I'm just going to keep stitching Stitch all the way to the bottom. Take the pins out as you go. Realign that a little if you have to make sure that your raw edges are sitting exactly on top of each other. I'm going to take that all the way down to the bottom. Realign that like that. And a small back stitch. Then I'm going to take that out of the machine. I'm just going to find my scissors. Here they are, hiding under my fabric. I'm going to pull that out. Now what I'm going to do now is lie that flat and show you how that will sit now that you finish that seam. Obviously that needs to be overlocked or zigzagged, but we're going to lie that out like that. And then if we fold the sleeve in the same line as the shoulder seam, what you'll see is that you now make sure in the notations we say to pop the seam allowance back towards the top. I haven't pressed it yet, but you can see now how that creates a beautiful sleeve. That's how simple it is. So have fun using the sleeve module. Can't wait to see what you all make.